This is part 2 of the Bob Iger book, which is The Ride of a Lifetime, Lessons Learned from 15 Years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. So part 1, we talked about how upset George was that they weren't going with his stories and the way that he wanted to. So let's find out what else was in this book. On George's new role of creative authority, Bob Iger says, George knew that I was going to stand firm on the question of creative control, but it wasn't an easy thing for him to accept. And so he reluctantly agreed to be available to consult with us at our request. I promised that we would be open to his ideas. This was not a hard promise to make. Of course we would be open to George Lucas's ideas. But like the outlines, we would be under no obligation. The truth was Kathy, J.J. Allen, and I had discussed the direction in which the saga should go. And we all agreed that it wasn't what George had outlined. George knew we weren't contractually bound to anything, but he thought that our buying the story was a promise that we'd follow them. And he was disappointed that his story was being discarded. I'd been so careful since our first conversation not to mislead him in any way, and I didn't think I had now. But I could have handled it better. I should have prepared him for the meeting with JJ and Michael and told him about our conversations. I'm not sure who Michael is, by the way. We felt it was better to go in another direction. I could have talked through this with him and possibly avoided angering by not surprising him. Now, in the first meeting with him about the future of Star Wars, George felt betrayed. And while this whole process would have never gone easy for him, how could George not feel betrayed? Of course George felt betrayed. He trusted you that you would go with his story from 7, 8, and 9. And the reason he didn't do 7, 8, and 9 is because of the backlash he received from the fandom. And a lot of it had to do with his character. Jar Jar, and George clearly said that if he couldn't tell his story the way he wanted it, then he couldn't enjoy doing it. And that's why he didn't do 7, 8, 9. And he thought that he could trust Kathy and Disney to finish his story, even if they tweaked it. But I'm sure he would have been happy if, okay, we just took a few things out, changed a little bit of this, but to discard it altogether. Of course George Lucas would have felt betrayed. George is like the god of Star Wars. I mean, he created the whole thing. It wouldn't be here without him to begin with. Anyway, sorry. On George seeing The Force Awakens for the first time. Just prior to the global release, Kathy screened The Force Awakens for George. He didn't hide his disappointment. There's nothing new, he said. In each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to him to present new worlds, new stories, new characters, and new technologies. In this one, he said, there weren't enough visual or technical leaps forward. He wasn't wrong, but he also wasn't anticipating the pressure we were under to give the fans a film they felt was Star Wars. We intentionally created a world that was connected to the earlier films to not stray too far from what people loved and expected. And George was criticizing us for the very thing we were trying to do. Looking back with the perspective of several years and a few more Star Wars films, I believe J.J. achieved the near impossible, creating a perfect bridge between what had been and what was to come. Not sure I agree with this. Not sure I agree with this at all. So one person's opinion on this, I'm not sure whose was, but this was good. I'm going to read this to you, something I found. One thing I'll say, at least since Bob revealed this, we now there's no more guessing, there's no more blaming, we actually get a better understanding of how George felt. And he felt betrayed, and I would too. This person, I should say, says, I do not think that regardless of whether Lucas' ideas were properly executed or not, these movies would very much be decisive amongst ourselves. Because even more than the prequels, most fans have some stake in what they think should happen with how the story of the OT continues. Whether it's the EU take, the rumors on the Lucas take, or now the Disney take, we all care a lot, and we all are going to have some intense feelings about it. So try to keep perspective and enjoy the version you want to enjoy. What do we think about this? Basically, Bob is saying, look, we never made a promise to George. We never promised him anything. We asked if we can consult him at any time we feel. He gave us the stories. We decided to discard them, and he felt betrayed by it. When he saw The Force Awakens, he said there was nothing new here. And he liked new worlds, new technologies, new this, new advancements, stuff, which makes sense, right? Like the speeder bike. We never saw a speeder bike until Return of the Jedi, right? Or the walkers in the episode in Empire Strikes Back. I never saw the walkers, right? In New Hope, we saw the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters. We saw Darth Vader's ship. We saw the Death Star, but we didn't see the walkers. That was new. We didn't see the Bespin Cloud cars in Cloud City. That was new, right? When Return of the Jedi, it was the speeder bikes and the Rebel Alliance, how their starships. So yeah, so that was every time he brought Endor, he brought Hoth. He brought from Tatooine to Hoth to Endor. So we made our way around Dagobah, different worlds. I mean, he's right about that. If you think about what George did, he did create and make different things. And here, look, again, it's just my opinion, okay? It's just my opinion. I'm disappointed that they didn't, whether we like George's 7, 8, or 9, I did want to see his ending. Do I wish he never sold it? Yeah, but there was nothing I could do. I had no say over it, and he had 4 billion reasons to not sell it. 4 billion reasons. So, when people say, well, he sold it and it's his fault and he did it. And look, he did it because maybe he did it because of us. Maybe because he wanted us to be happy. So maybe he thought that someone could do it better than he can. Maybe he sold it because he didn't like what we were saying. And it's not me. I'm not including that. I don't include myself in hating the prequels because I don't hate the prequels. My favorite movie is Revenge of the Sith. My favorite character is Count Dooku. So I definitely am not a part of that group. And I hate that people group me in things because I'm not a part of that hate the prequel trilogy stuff because I didn't. Listen, there's things in Star Wars that I hated. Each and every bit of it, there's something I didn't like. Like, for example, the original trilogy, right? We have Leia kissing Luke, and then Luke says, okay, well, you're my sister. And then she says, somehow I knew. If you knew, how do you passionately kiss your brother like that? How does that make any sense? And not only that, how do you tell Luke that you remember your mother, your real mother? That's impossible when she died of childbirth. So that, with the prequels, when they show Padme dying of childbirth, doesn't make sense in Return of the Jedi, now does it? Unless Leia had a vision or something. But it doesn't make any sense. To me, the only way they can cover it up is by saying she had a vision of her mother. That she saw Padme Amidala give birth to them. That's all I could think of. I mean, that part bothered me. The Ewoks, okay, I don't know, wasn't so into them. They're okay, they're okay. I mean, some people love them, they're okay, they're cute. They're all right. I mean, but as I was growing up, it was different than when I was a kid, With this, there's so many things I don't like. I just don't like how they treated the characters. I don't like how they didn't keep the nostalgia, the lore. I don't know why they didn't make EU a huge part of the story. Even if George didn't like, George didn't like, so what? Then this is a time to take advantage of that situation. Bring the EU, make it canon. History is a huge part of anything you do. We learn from history. from the mistakes that are made, and from the positives that are made. We grow from that, and we make it even better. Do I feel bad that George got betrayed? Yeah. Do I feel bad that he's $4 billion? No. No, I don't. I don't feel bad at the money he made. But this was all, listen, his baby. He created. So, of course, this guy has every right to be upset about it. And to know that he had trust and faith in Disney, in Iger, and in Kathy, and that they decided to not go the route that he wanted to, and he felt betrayed, I think he had every right to feel the way he does. You could say what you want. You could say, well, he sold it and whatever, and that's fine if that's the way you want to look at it. The glass is half empty and half full. And this is why we're divided. And unfortunately, this is why we all feel the way we feel. We all, I guess, as it's said here, which I couldn't say any better, we all care a lot about Star Wars. All of us. That's why we make these videos. That's why we go on social media and talk about it, because it's something we're passionate about. It gets us away from everyday life. This gets me away from everyday life. That's why I play Battlefront 2. I love it. Love it. And this is why I talk about it. This is why I do videos, because I love it. I'm passionate about it. And we all are going to have intense feelings about it. Very true. So when it says try to keep a perspective and enjoy the version you want to enjoy, yes, I would like my version to be a part of it, but unfortunately right now it isn't. And it doesn't look like it ever will be, and it's what upsets me the most. Again, it doesn't make me right, it doesn't make me wrong, it's just my personal feelings, and I think everybody's entitled to them. And you could let me know your personal feelings. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about George feeling betrayed? That he trusted Kathy, that he trusted Disney and Iger to do the right thing, to carry his movies, even though they said, we never promised him that. And maybe that was his biggest mistake, that he trusted someone that he should have just told the story of 7, 8, and 9, whether he hired Steven Spielberg or someone else to do it. He should have finished his story. Maybe he wouldn't have felt the way he felt, and then sold it and moved on, and let Disney tell their story, which could have included Kylo and Rey. And I think this would have been totally acceptable to everybody in the community, and I don't think we'd be fighting and as divided as we are. But the bottom line is, again, we have intense feelings because we all care about it and we all love it, and that's the bottom line. And with that, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. I'll continue to give you everything I can about Star Wars. We'll do some live streams soon. And I'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Be well. Don't forget to check my Twitter. You might find things on it you don't see here. Take care. Thanks for watching. Care about you all. Be well.